It's Friday, and you know what that means. It's time for your weekly edition of Travel Grunt. I'm your host, Zac Wilson, and I need a vacation. What's up on the pad of power? Well, you may have noticed that last week we did not have an episode of Travel Grunt, and that's because our son, Alex Wilson, was graduating from Toller High School, and boy oh boy was it a busy week. So we have a lot of travel news to get through from last week and this week. First up, I just want to say, there's an awful lot of cruise news. Who's ready to go cruising? I know I am. Let's dive into this. The Alaska Tourism Restoration Act has been signed into law. What does that mean? Cruises in Alaska this summer. It means we are no longer legally required to touch down in Canada, so we can do round-trip sailings from Seattle, round-trip sailings from Alaska, or just a one-way trip between Seattle and Alaska, and that will last all the way through February of 2022. Of course, the Alaska cruise season really ends late September. However, this is really great news for the Alaska tourism market, and if you've been waiting for an Alaskan cruise that was canceled in 2020, congratulations, we have opportunities. Now, speaking of cruises getting restarted, one of the questions that I get a lot is, will a vaccine be required or simply a COVID test? Well, there's really two options. The CDC has given the cruise lines the opportunity to sail with vaccines required, where if at least 98% of the crew and 95% of all guests can show proof of vaccination, there's a lot less red tape and hoops to jump through, and we can just get sailing, and I'm excited about that. If you want to have a cruise that is just testing required, then you have to apply for a test cruise with what they call a simulated cruise, where you go out for a couple of nights, where you have volunteers sailing with you as passengers. The CDC has to check off a lot of different boxes, and there's a whole lot of logistics that have to be figured out in terms of how far before you join the ship do you test? Are they going to be doing rapid testing at the port, etc.? So as you can imagine, as crazy as all that is, if you were a cruise line that's been out of business for a year and the industry has lost over $27 billion with a B dollars, you would take the fastest option, which is vaccinations required. So I would expect that all of or most of the early cruises starting up this July and August are going to be vaccine required. So just keep that in mind. That being said, Royal Caribbean gets the first okay from the CDC for test cruises in June, so they are still doing the test cruise route. I just think the initial cruises will be vaccine required, but they're trying to get to that point where they don't have to require it as fast as possible. So if you're concerned about whether or not you have the vaccine or want the vaccine, maybe it's better for you to book your cruise now for 2022 to give them some time to get it all figured out. But if you want to sail this summer, late summer, make sure you've got your vaccination. Celebrity Edge will be the first cruise ship to sail from a U.S. port with CDC approval on June 26th. That's pretty exciting. Also, the CDC has said that cruise guests who are vaccinated may gather and eat outside without masks. Basically, what they're saying is this: if you're indoors, got to have a mask. If you are in a crowded area, got to have a mask. Go outside, get some space, take your mask off. Don't get a funny tan line, right? Okay. But that's for vaccinated guests. If you're going to be on a ship that is allowing guests that are not vaccinated and you do not have proof of vaccination, you will be required at this time to continue wearing your face mask at all times. So that is an inconvenience for those who are unable or unwilling to take the vaccination at this time. In other travel news, not cruise related, Universal Orlando says that vaccinated guests, no masks in or out of doors and no proof required. So that's kind of a weird one for me. I guess it's because the state of Florida has said and put into law from the governor that no business can require proof of vaccination to receive goods and services in the state of Florida. So it's on the honor system. If you don't have the vaccine, please wear your mask, just to help for health and safety. If you do have your vaccine, feel free to take it off and enjoy yourself. And it looks like the Walt Disney World Resort is beginning to follow suit in those areas as well. At the moment, I believe it is only out of doors. If you do enter a line, which of course is a crowded area, from the moment you enter the line to when you exit the attraction, you got to keep your mask on. So that is important. Also, Puerto Rico will not require COVID tests for vaccinated visitors. So this is something we're seeing really starting up across the world, whether it be Hawaii, Puerto Rico, and other destinations where they are requiring COVID testing prior to arrival, but they're making exceptions that if you have proof of vaccination, you don't have to take a test before you go, and it's sort of a fast track, and they're just making it easier for you. But those without vaccinations are welcome as long as you go through the process of getting tested. I do encourage you at this time, reach out to a professional travel advisor before booking any travel because there's a lot of new rules and every destination is different. Each country has the right to do their own thing. We don't live under a one world government, right? There are so many countries on this planet, so please don't get frustrated if one of your favorite destinations' protocols don't meet with your personal ideology because it's their country and it's their rules, and if you want to visit, hey, find out what the rules are and then go. Okay, so a professional travel advisor who specializes in that destination will help you make it easy and smooth and let's remove some of the frustration and let's just get back to traveling. Here's some exciting news. The Carnival Mardi Gras, their latest new ship, with, by the way, has a miniature roller coaster on the top deck on the aft of the ship. Can't wait to see that in action, sailing with a roll. I mean, we've seen go-karts on the Norwegian ships, right? We've seen some aqua coasters on the Disney ships, but a roller coaster on a Carnival ship? What else says big fun, right? But they're pulling into port today in Port Canaveral. Very exciting. I know a lot of my friends in Florida are there welcoming the ship. We're excited to see the industry coming back and a lot of jobs coming back. That's very, very exciting. So what's next on the pad of power? Hey, Zach, what are you daydreaming about? I don't know. What am I daydreaming about? I'm daydreaming about graduation travel. You know, this really wasn't much of a thing back when I was a kid. When you graduated high school, the best thing you could expect was you got a summer off, maybe to start a summer job, and then you started college in the fall. Now the big thing is as soon as you graduate, you get to go on a graduation trip. And this is a really fun time for families to celebrate with one another on a milestone. We've seen families do really exotic trips where they pick a crazy destination, like a European river cruise together. I mean, that's not exactly cheap when you take an entire family, right? Or maybe they'll rent out an over-the-water bungalow in the Caribbean and go hang out in the Caribbean for 7 days. That's pretty awesome. But right now, what we're seeing, a lot of graduation trips are just one last celebration of being a big kid before you transition into being a young adult, right? So what are we doing? Walt Disney World Resort, Universal Orlando. That's where my son has decided to go. Disneyland California is now welcoming guests who are not residents of California starting June 15th. Check out the new Avengers campus. Man, be a big kid. Take the family. Go have fun and celebrate together. Now, if you want to do kind of the traditional, let's be honest. I'm a rich kid and my parents are sending me off to do something crazy and exotic. The old way of backpacking through Europe, right? Please be advised right now that the European Union and many of the countries are putting together a digital health passport. They are tracking vaccination records, so make sure you are up to date on your vaccinations before you plan a trip to Europe. Also, I'd like to say, any international travel for your graduation travel, be sure to buy travel insurance or travel protection. It's not just about having coverage for last-minute cancellations, for non-refundables, but it's also about the medical coverage and emergency evacuation coverage that you get when in a foreign country. Most of us don't think about it. The United States has great medical health coverage. Most of our parents have some kind of medical plan that we're covered underneath, but when you go abroad, chances are that coverage does not cover you in a foreign country. So buying travel insurance is really important. It always has been, but especially now, and so I just want to give you that tip for your graduation trip. What's next on the pad of power? You know, we haven't done a travel grunt squeal in a while. And boy, that wasn't a very good squeal. I need a drink of water. We've got to do this right because I would like to squeal on the class of 2021. Here we go. That's our travel grunt squeal for the class of 2021. Boy, oh boy, congratulations, not just on graduating, which is in and of itself a huge milestone. But 2021, at the end of your junior year, the pandemic broke out and you started with Zoom classes. You didn't know what to expect when your senior year would begin. Would there be a homecoming dance? Would there be a prom? Would the football games happen? What about marching band? Would we even return to in-class? And I have a lot of friends who graduated this year, or at least friends whose kids graduated this year, along with my son. And while those of us in Texas had class available in person while wearing face masks and temperature checks and whatnot, and reduced activities, there are many in other states who had to do Zoom. And this was a whole new thing, and it had a huge impact on our students' socialization, mental health, stress levels, anxiety, and somehow you made it through. I want you to remember this year. I want you to remember that you can do anything. That the world can throw all kinds of stuff at you, and you can and will overcome it. Just keep that in mind when you find yourself in the future at a job or in a relationship, in your marriage, with your future kids, and something weird comes up. Just remind yourself, man, I went to high school and graduated in 2021. Nothing else can you throw at me. I am strong, I'm resilient, and I am capable. And I really believe that for you. I do want to end every show with usually a travel quote. And this isn't really a specific travel quote. It actually comes from one of my favorite Disney Pixar movies, the movie Up. And I just want to remind you, as you're going out into a brave new world, maybe you're going off to college in a different state away from home. Maybe you got accepted to Oxford in England. You're going to a different country. Maybe you're taking a year off and you're going to travel. I don't know. I just want you to remember this. Adventure is out there. Seek it, embrace it, enjoy it. Until next time, I'm Zac Wilson. This has been Travel Grunt! Ho, 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 ho.